Hi, everybody. Here's a question, and it's a question a lot of people have, particularly if they're living with a narcissist or someone with extremely self centered behaviors. Can you live with a narcissist? And the answer is yes, but it might just kill you. Okay. That may sound um, comical, but it's actually kind of true. Um, and living with a narcissist, it might just actually starve you from savoring life to the fullest. And one of the most interesting quotes I have come across about stress is this one from French journalist Jean-Louis Servan-Schreiber. Now, I probably messed that up, but what he says is, what I fear most about stress is not that it kills, but that it prevents one from savoring life. And when I thought that, I thought, yeah, stress and certain relationships can actually really stymie a person's ability to save a life fully, whereas a really healthy relationships can actually enhance and grow a person's savoring of life. And one of the look, I've listened to quite a few people that have been involved in with relationships with narcissistic people, or just people that are just really self-centered and controlling, those all those sort of things. And a common feature is this kind of loss of life where um, they just haven't been allowed to expand or grow. And there's like a constant demand to meet that narcissistic supply that this person needs. And it's like there's a loss in themselves. And it's really kind of subtle. It's kind of a quiet pull to meet the other person's needs. And one of the little quotes you hear all the time, and one that I just want to scream at people when I say it, is this one here: happy wife, happy life. And it's kind of like, oh, so if I keep my wife happy, or husband, or child, or family member, or boss, or whoever happy, then life will be okay. Then I will be happy. But too often it dissolves into keeping on giving and giving and giving. And it doesn't mean that your life is any better, but it kind of just means that you're under their control. And it comes to a point where you dare not rock the boat. And you begin to feel like you're going to be walking on eggshells and you want to avoid potential landmines. And over on the web page, where there's a link in the show notes, I've got this picture of this guy fully suited up with bomb disposal gear and a big long pole. And I look there and I think, yeah, that describes some people that I know in the relationships they have with others, that they're like walking into a landmine field. And you begin living with anxiety and you wonder what will happen next. Meanwhile, everyone else thinks the other person is simply wonderful, but you see a different persona and you feel trapped, and you might actually start to consider your own sanity, whether you have actually got it wrong. The narcissistic lie is like, just look how wonderful I am. I come and be enhanced by my glorious beauty, wisdom, power, and strength. Look at me. But everyone else is like, people really know them. They're like, I don't think so. And basically, narcissism is selfishness, not selflessness. Selfishness, not selflessness. So, how do you live with a narcissist? And can you? Can you do that? Look, I've got 6 suggestions, and it may be in the end you can't any longer live with that person. But I've got 6 suggestions, and I don't think I've found this in any of the other websites that I've looked at this. So it's kind of novel stuff. But these are 6 suggestions I have found from scripture and also from listening to people. Number one is to create a flint-like focus. Now, flint is an incredibly hard rock, and that flint-like focus is like a metaphor that describes like a strong, unwavering focus. It's determined and will not be distracted. It's persevering and not being swayed. And the prophet Isaiah says, "The Lord helps me, therefore I have not been disgraced. Therefore I have set my face like flint, and I know that I will not be put to shame." And I think of Jesus, and how he lived with us in our self-centered narcissistic ways. In a previous post, I talk about Satan being the perfect narcissist, and he could have been distracted, but he instead set his face like flint towards Jerusalem, the cross, the resurrection, and fulfilling God's plans. And look, we we want that other person to heal, grow, to change, and to be part of our journey. But in reality, they are more focused about their own reflection. And there comes a time when you've got to say, actually, I want to focus, for me personally, I want to focus on Jesus. First and foremost, I want to be focused on Him and what He wants in my life. And you've got to start to detach from their needs and demands, let them have their trip. And I've got a little link there to a wonderful Rob Bell podcast about that. And have a flint like focus trip on yours. And you have to resolve and you have to get hard and you have to get quite stubborn about it. And it may seem really hard and difficult to do, but that's number one suggestion. Number two is actually to set your boundaries. And when I'm talking about this, is to say, this is who I am, this is who they are. This is who I am, this is what's important to me, this is me. And understand that there is an I, a we, and there is a work. And the narcissist, the self centered person, wants to suck the life out of your I. All right, suck every morsel of admiration, etc., out of you. Don't let them. Build stronger walls by building a stronger I. And you can read a bit more about this I we work. There's a link in the blog post. I'd encourage you to come over and read it. It's one of the most transforming things I have done and share about boundary work. Number three on the suggestions on how to live with a narcissist: give them what is their due. Okay, it's like a tax they want you to pay. It's like an entitlement dictator's tax, but it's without limit. You don't know how much. They just keep paying, keep paying, keep paying, keep paying. And once some people came up to Jesus and said, asked Jesus a question about paying taxes to Caesar. And Jesus said, "Give therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's." And he pulled out a coin and showed, "This is Caesar's." "And give to God the things that are God's." So what are you saying? give give Caesar the tax, but ultimately you give the most to God. So give to them their due. Be kind, respectful, but save your very, very, very best, the most precious gift within you. Give to God and to give to those who appreciate its value. Don't give to meet their narcissistic supply. Don't lay out your precious pearls out before them, because they'll only trample them into the ground and they will attack you. Jesus said, "Do not give what is holy to dogs. Do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them under your foot and turn and maul you." And as someone who has shared some of the most precious pearls in his life to those unable to appreciate their beauty, and then they've gone on to trample on them and attack me, I say, don't. Right, because it's just going to end up in trauma for you. Don't give someone something that they can't see its worth and its beauty and its value. Give that to someone who can. So, um, yeah. What was the point? It was don't. It was give them what is due. Okay, give them the tax, but save your very best for those who really appreciate it. Number 4, gather a few others around you. Now, one of the features of Jesus is, well, he could have just gone and done the whole thing himself, but no, he had that flint-like focus, but he still chose a few others who loved him and cared for him and gave to him um, encouragement and support. And by the end, thousands followed him, but by the end, there was only a handful at the foot of the cross. Only a handful remained. And we all need people who will pour soul into our soul, and we will pour our soul into their soul. We need others along the journey with us. We need others to lift us up when we've been beaten down, particularly by when we've laid out our pearls and pigs and dogs and so on and ripped into us. Look, I'm responsible for my own faith in God, but I also need a few others who can help me grow in my faith, and I to help them to grow in their faith. Okay, the next one is 5. Cultivate a secret life with God. Now, this is a really tricky one, really interesting one. Look, much of what I've written above is and shared above is can seem also almost narcissistic in its focus. That it has a self focus, and you might wonder if you aren't being a little narcissistic in yourself and self care, And actually, yeah, we all have a little selfishness in us. What I would call an incurvatus in se, which is like curved in on ourselves. And there's a link in the blog post about that. Um, but here is something to combat that potential risk of being sucked into look at me lifestyle. Give to God and to others completely in secret. Okay, completely in secret, so no one knows. There's no opportunity for narcissistic supply to yourself. Jesus gave this counsel, and what I've done in this particular verse is I've added in a little bit about narcissism. All right, he said, "Beware of practicing your piety before others, a narcissistic behavior, in order to be seen by them, a narcissistic desire. For then you'll have no reward from your Father in heaven." So whenever you give alms or gifts, do not sound a trumpet before you. A narcissistic behavior. Look what I'm doing. As the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets. It's a narcissistic behavior. All right. So that they may be praised by others. A narcissistic desire. And I'll just pause here. Often I will see, like in New Zealand here, we have ambulances, and on the back of them it says donated by this particular family or trust. And I thought, great, you've got your reward. Um, Good on you. What about if you just gave without a name, no desire for a reward here on earth? It goes on. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. All right. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. It's sort of like completely automatic. So that your alms that you're giving may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, a narcissistic behavior, so that they may be seen by others, a narcissistic desire. Truly, I tell you, they've received their reward. But whenever you go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. When you are praying, do not heap up empty phrases, a narcissistic behavior. All right, heaping up all the phrases. Oh, look at me, as the Gentiles do. For they think they will be heard. All right, a narcissistic desire being heard because of their many words. Look, this is a challenge to those of us, such as myself, who are called to a public ministry to actually say the words, to demonstrate stuff, to be out there. Um, and am I doing this ministry to receive some sort of praise or affirmation and quite frankly it does feel good to get emails and applaud and all these nice things. But is it the sole intent of what I'm doing? And so to counter this easy um, fame seeking or whatever you want to call it, I have a very secret life of giving and prayer. I do things that nobody else knows about, and only God knows about them. I give financially, cash, and to some people, and they don't even know who it's from, but God knows. I pray for others. Nobody else knows, only God. And I would encourage a very secret life where you do things that no one else knows about. And so there is no potential for human praise or affirmation or condemnation. It's just between you and God. And if you come over to the website and have a look at the blog post, you'll see some suggestions on how to do that. But it's purely between you and God. The 6 suggestions on how you can learn to live with a narcissist: let consequences take their course. All right? A narcissistic lifestyle, a focus on selfishness, will eventually have its natural consequences. And I think of David, sorry about that, and the natural consequences of his adultery. I think about Abigail and the natural consequences of Nabal's foolishness, self centeredness take place. And you'll have to come and read those particular stories. But each of those situations, and in many other narcissistic stories in the Bible, there is a kind of a natural consequence that just comes around that shames the person to a point of brokenness. And in the non-violent approach to handling bullies, tyrants, and narcissists, Jesus advocated letting the natural consequences of their demands lead them to a place of public shaming, and something that might just awake the narcissist from their spellbound self-love. Jesus said this: "You have heard what it is that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. If anyone wants to sue you, take your coat, give your cloak as well. If anyone forces you to go for a mile, go also the second mile." Now, I'm not advocating continuing abuse, but what Jesus was saying, these are all public. People see these things, and they're like, "What? That's not true. That's not right. It's not fair." And it shames the abuser. Paul, who I believe had narcissistic tendencies, he as Saul, but he became Paul. I think he was a reformed narcissist, and he writes this. And again, I'm going to insert some things about narcissism into this text. "Consider your own call, brothers and sisters. Not many of you were wise by human standards, a narcissistic desire, wisdom by human standards. Not many were powerful, a narcissistic desire to be powerful. Not many of you were noble birth, a narcissistic desire to be nobility. But God chose what is foolish." What? A perfect narcissism does not want to be seen as foolish. God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. Okay, those who think they're wise. God chose what is weak. Look, perfect narcissist does not want to be seen as weak. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. All right, what? God chose something that was weak to shame those of us who think we're strong, narcissistically strong. God chose what is low and despised. Look, a perfect narcissist does not want to be feel that they're low and despised in this world. Um, Things that are not. God chose what is low and despised in the world. Things that are not. A narcissist does not want to be seen as something that is not. And God chose something in this world that is to reduce to nothing. A perfect narcissist does not want to be seen as nothing. He chose something, things that are so that nobody can boast. Look, before God. A narcissist wants to boast before God to say, look at what I've done. A narcissist wants to boast before everybody. Look at what we've done. God chose what is foolish, what is weak, what is low and despised, something that's not, something that is nothing. All right? And that's a real big teaching around narcissism. Choosing a completely other flip side of the self praise to be actually, I want to be nothing. And that's going to be something a narcissist will just cringe at. Okay? A narcissist would never do anything like giving away anything in secret. That would just be the worst thing that they could ever think of doing. Impossible. Living with an extreme narcissist is hard. And there may come a time when you have to part ways. But in the meantime, I'd ask you to prayerfully try those 6 suggestions I've made. Give them choices. Give them forks in the road, places where decisions have to be made. Don't try to fix them, advise them, save them, or set them straight. Look, it's going to be tough. And on the other side of this, you may well become quite broken by your struggle with them. But I think, and this is what I found, that people that go through this battle, they come out stronger and wiser. People that are able to support those living with narcissists. Please come over to the website. There's lots of quotes, questions, reflective art questions, and so on. And yeah, get on my email list because there's some good stuff that's going to be coming through, and I'm going to be running a little class, a little interview with someone who has been through this battle and which might be of help to you. But get on the email list. That's going to happen next week. If you're not on the email list, you're probably not going to hear about it. So come on over and thank you so much. And I'd love to hear from you, an email, and let me know what you think. Okay, thanks. Bye.